4, 3, 2, 1.
So I started out as a painter, and now I moved into making kind of like more hybrid, immersive projects. Writing is a really important component of that, so I make audio for my installations, and I also write. So my name is Lise Baggesen. My relationship with poetry kind of like runs back to like my teenage years, was when I guess most people discover poetry. And so you would also have to get it where you could find it, so in that sense, pop lyrics then can take on this sort of like meaning, like when you're out in the sticks and like nobody understands you, and then you discover that David Bowie understands you. It can be like a really profound moment, and then it does become this kind of almost kind of like an oracle or a fortune cookie, that it takes on this meaning with where am I going from here. I feel like poetics can be like so many things. So I don't know if you want to, I don't know if you want to include music lyrics in poetry, but I guess there's like a really strong relation with these sort of like little snippets of, like words that stay with you and become a kind of like mantra that, ties you to a specific moment in time, or that become really kind of almost catalysts to how our personal relationship works, or, and they are often just little, like little snippets of pop lyrics or little snippets of poetry. Or for instance, that one that my daughter made there about the revolution. What does it say? The flags are waving. There are different people. It's revolution. Because this place has not been stated yet, so let's just wait and see who wins. I think that's fairly poetic, for lack of a better words, also because of its ambiguity. It doesn't have like a clear-cut idea of where this revolution is going, but there's a very kind of like laid-back stance of let's see who wins. So I guess in terms of ambiguity, or in terms of, I do savor that. But back then, yeah, definitely. Back then I would like to write a poem, like I would really have the ambition to write a poem. I wouldn't say that I have like that kind of ambition anymore, but some people say that because you're like the linguistic part of your brain develops so rapidly as a teenager, that you're like really susceptible to poetry at that time. The way that you're making these leaps and bounds emotionally almost kind of calls for a new language every day, in terms of like catching up with your experience. And I guess then some of that you can only express poetically. And of course I know that there are a lot of other things that poetry can do, but I wouldn't describe myself as a poet. But of course, through my son and through his poetry team, I get, like kind of like all this like youth poetry by osmosis. But I think that there's a really, in the poetic, there's actually more kind of like a punch to the gut, or like, kind of like a kickback that hits you later. So I guess maybe what is poetic? The poetic is the kind of thing that the unputdownable quality of a certain phrase or a certain sequence of words that will then linger. I don't know if people would describe my work as poetic, but I would definitely not take it hard if they would, People will come say to you that you're swinging a big room around, like stop swinging a big room around. So I kind of like, took that to heart and said, like I'm gonna like really try to do my best to swing it. A favorite quote from Foucault, which I found really poetic, is, why would a painter paint if not for being transformed by his own work? And I think that transformative like knowledge is like what we could maybe say is the poetic, like that piece of knowledge that actually has the power to transform you through your knowledge.
We can do this far apart, separate and alone.